Morning, and thank you for having Victoria here at the wonderful InnoX. This is actually, for the Victorian State Government, the first time that we've attended and participated, and we're truly amazed at all the amazing Vietnamese tech startups that are here today, and from the region and across Asia as well. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit more about why Victoria, and for those who don't know what Victoria is, it's the province where Melbourne is the capital city. So why is Melbourne truly a tech capital across APAC and the Asia Pacific region? Let me work out how to use this one. So to start, the Victorian government is really active in trade and promotion. At an investment level, we have offices in 24 countries around the world and 4 here in Southeast Asia, including in Ho Chi Minh City, where my colleague Trent Davies in the front row is sitting, for anyone who wants to get in touch with us later. But what we do is we help Vietnamese companies who want to expand into Australia choose Melbourne as the place where they go to. We help Victorian companies come in and sell their products and services and invest into Vietnam. But we also have education as well. So Vietnamese students who want to study at an Australian university like RMIT here in Ho Chi Minh City are more than welcome to, and we can help you find schools and universities that are appropriate for the things that you want to study. So about Invest Victoria, we help Vietnamese startups, SMEs, corporates and multinationals expand your business into Melbourne, Victoria, which is in Australia. We do this through a whole range of different ways, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Firstly, I want to tell you why Melbourne. So Melbourne is the lifestyle capital of the world, in my opinion, but officially of Australia. We're the only city in the world that hosts a Formula One Grand Prix and a Grand Slam tennis open. We have the National Gallery of Victoria, and we have a whole lot of arts, cultural and sporting events, which make living in Victoria an amazing place. For those people who are interested in migration options, there's also a Live in Vic website, which you can find out all the different ways that you can travel and go down to Melbourne. But from a business side, and this is probably more important for those who are looking at investment, we're globally competitive. We're now, as of last year, the most populous city in Australia. So we have more people in Greater Melbourne than Sydney do. We're an international business hub with 1/4 of all of the ASX, Australian Stock Exchange listed top 200 companies being based in Melbourne, and we're a leader in supply chain. So a lot of companies who are already doing business in Australia are looking at trade and freight and logistics. We're the only city in Australia to have 2 24-hour curfew-free international airports and the largest port in Australia. So getting product to and from Australia and Vietnam is easiest when you're in Melbourne. But this is what I'm here to talk about. We're a tech city as well. Melbourne tech ecosystem has grown significantly in the last number of years. As of this year, we have 3,200 tech startups with an enterprise value of around 91 billion Australian dollars. That's around 70 billion US dollars. There are over 50,000 people employed in our startup ecosystem. And as Jonathan mentioned earlier, there are 19 unicorns just in Victoria alone, including Airwallex, who is probably the most successful of the Victorian ones. LaunchVic is our startup agency. So for any startup from Vietnam who comes to Melbourne, registers their business, so you become a Victorian business, you're then eligible to tap into LaunchVic, which is our ecosystem support agency. We help you find mentors, we help you find with pitching, we help you find investors. And so there's a whole range of activities and support mechanisms which LaunchVic, once you become a Victorian company by expanding, having a rep office or an enterprise in Melbourne, that you can tap into. I won't show you the video. I can see my countdown timer going down way too fast. But this is just about the size and how fast it's grown. I said it's grown quickly. But you can see there, since 2019, it's almost 1,000% growth for now $36 billion worth. And that's just the early stage startup community. So early stage being Series A and earlier. These, I won't repeat because Jonathan has gone into it in a lot more detail, but we are home to a whole range of unicorns, and that just demonstrates the capacity of this startup ecosystem in Victoria and Australia. So why, though? Why are these tech unicorns coming out of Melbourne? It's really because of the talent that we have and the university system. Australia ranks #1 in the OECD for the ability to attract and retain tech talent. And 40% of Australia's ICT graduates graduate from universities in Melbourne. And 70% of our workforce are all university graduates. So you can see on the screen there's software developers, product managers, QA and testing, data analytics. This is a comparison between Melbourne and Singapore, because Singapore has a comparative at a salary wage number, but Melbourne has more in all of these areas than in Singapore. Additionally, when you compare it to other cities in Australia, you're seeing more tech grads coming out of Melbourne than any other city. You can see the list there, more than New South Wales, Queensland, and again, Singapore has been mentioned. But it's also business grads as well. So you're not just looking for your tech talent, but you've got to have people to run those businesses. And Melbourne and Sydney have huge numbers of tech graduates who can run and operate businesses, making sure that your P&L works, as well as your tech. So the tech ecosystem helps grow startups. And what we're really happy about, and it looks like to me that some of the logos are missing in the industry association. I do know there are industry associations. I don't know why they haven't come up on the screen. But what's really important, I think, on this slide is that if you're a startup and you're wanting to grow, you can't do it by yourself. A whole ecosystem is needed. It's not just the investor. The VC is great and they'll give you the money, but without the universities to do the R&D, without the government to provide the regulatory environment for you to succeed, without the investors, without those industry associations who help connect you into other businesses, it's going to be much more difficult to be successful. So where Victoria is really thriving and what's helped our ecosystem so much is this really strong ecosystem, which through Invest Victoria, we can help connect you to make sure you're successful when you come to Melbourne. We do have a huge range of investors in Melbourne, and one of the key strengths of Australia is that VC ecosystem at around that Series A, Series B stage. So for those companies who have gone through their seed round, they're doing really well here in Vietnam, and they're thinking, maybe Australia is the next market I want to go to. There is really strong opportunities to be invested in by Australian VCs. One thing to note though, a lot of Australian VCs can only invest into Australian registered companies. So to get investment in Australia, you do need to primarily register your business in Australia as well. So you're still the Vietnam headquartered company, but you have a rep office in Australia, and that makes you Australian to be able to get the investment from the Australian VC community. These are some of the companies we've helped. You can see it ranges from really global tech companies like IBM and Meta, but also Southeast Asian tech startups. And I think Bukalapak, probably one that people may know as a unicorn from Indonesia, Green Lion, SunGreen, both out of Singapore, and they're in the renewable energy space. So we help a whole range of different size companies who do different things. Again, it is cheaper to operate in Melbourne than it is to in Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra. So Melbourne, if you're coming into Australia, it's cheaper for your rent. It's cheaper to find staff. The utilities like electricity, water, gas is cheaper. So for anyone who's looking at going to Australia, which is an expensive market, we acknowledge that, Melbourne is significantly cheaper in a whole range of these metrics than other cities in Australia. And that helped you as a business to make sure that you're getting the best value for when you're in the Australian market. These are just some more slides on the costs of doing business. But what I want to touch on in the last minute is what we're focused on. It's digital tech, it's agri, it's health and life sciences, clean energy, and advanced manufacturing. These 5 sectors sound quite restrained, but they're quite broad. If you have a look at some of the subsectors under them, it really, what we're looking for is tech-enabled startups who we can support to come into the Australian ecosystem and use Melbourne as their base for Australia. MedTech, Australia's largest medical city. We've got precincts with hospitals, with research facilities, with clinical trials to help you as a company. I'm going to fly through these because I'm being wound up, but these are just some of the things that why Victoria is strong. And the last thing I'll talk about before I get booted off the stage is how we can help and some of the funding. So we help in 2 different ways. We do facilitation. We help you make contacts, we help you find an office, we help you find staff. So all of the things that you need to make a successful business. But what we also do is we can provide financial assistance. There are tax incentives from the Australian federal government, and Jonathan can probably talk to anyone who's interested in that. R&D tax incentives, you get 43% discount on any R&D activities undertaken in Australia. The new NRF will be providing equity, and it will be providing grants to companies who manufacture in Australia. But what is most important is that we can invest equity directly into startups from Vietnam who come to Victoria and bring some of their business and do R&D or manufacturing or value-added activities in the state. I'm happy to talk to anyone later about, and I welcome anyone to come and chat to Trent and I about this, because there's a lot of detail about the equity fund, but what I really want to say is that we can invest equity, and we're so supportive of bringing you to Australia that we want to be part of your business. So I'll leave it there, but Trent, put your hand in the air. Trent Davies is our Senior Trade and Investment Director based here in Ho Chi Minh City, and myself. We're here all day today and all day tomorrow. Our details are on the very last slide. So thank you very much, and I really look forward to talking to everyone about how we can support you coming to Australia and coming to Victoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael, for your sharing.